So, session two of Romford Short Film Festival, and I am with James
Yeah.
from The Real Deal. James, tell us first of all about what your role is in this project.
Yeah, so I was the director of the film. I also wrote the screenplay based on the original short story, which was written by the author Andy Weir, I'm a huge fan of his work. He wrote The Martian, and also the really famous short story The Egg, which was kind of the starting point for where I found this story. I was just kind of browsing his website and came across this about 2 years ago, and thought this needs to be on the big screen. So that was kind of the initial inspiration.
It's quite interesting because I don't know the back history, but I really, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I didn't know where this story was going. So I'm not going to reveal to the audience at home where it went up, but it's always great to have a killer twist in a film. So first of all, well done. I appreciate it's based on it's appreciate worked on it based on an author's work, but the impact of that was really really good. Is there anything for anything that relatable for yourselves? Is there anything that made this story stick out? Is there anything that you've encountered that kind of takes you into this territory?
Yeah, so my granddad is a dementia patient, I guess. Yep. He is actually staying in the Parkside residential home where we filmed the final part of the film. Now, that all kind of actually happened a long time after I initially read the story, which kind of added another element as I began to sort of turn it into something for the screen. I think what strikes me so much about dementia that I don't think a lot of people talk about is the, I wouldn't say positive side, but there is an element whereby a lot of the suffering with dementia is placed on the people who have to support that person and not necessarily the person themselves. And I think what makes the twist in the story work so well, and what I thought, when I was talking about making it a visual thing, I think what made it so successful is how quickly it happens. And as someone who's sort of experienced this, pretty awful condition firsthand, I think the moment in which it can switch so quickly is stark. And I also think a lot of the time it's very fleeting, and it doesn't take a lot for somebody who suffers with dementia or Alzheimer's to, feel a level of confusion and almost distress. And you almost have to meet them on their level and talk to them in their world, however they perceive the world to currently be at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And it can be it can be a very easy yet sometimes heartbreaking process to have to kind of bring them back into that fantasy, which is what I thought, the final scene of the film really encapsulates, and was something that I really wanted to get across on screen.
I mean, I guess one of the big questions that I had all the way through was, where on earth does someone get all that Kennedy merch on the walls? Talk us through that. I mean, did you just print off a lot of stuff? Did you spend a lot of time on Temu?
It was a lot of printing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of research on my part, looking at various pictures from Kennedy rallies, finding like pictures of posters and stuff. In some cases, I did a little bit of graphic design to recreate stuff, and then just a massive Vistaprint order. That's essentially what brought that all together.
Yeah.
And a brilliant team of people who spent hours with me on the morning of the shoot, sticking things up and moving things around to kind of make that background, and a lot of them very minor tweaks, but I think it looks amazing. So.
And you say the morning of the shoot, so exactly how long did it take you to shoot?
So we did a day in the sort of bar area, and then we did a sort of half day for the final scene in the old people's home.
Yeah. Talk to us about your cast and how you acquired them?
Yeah, so I think the three guys who are in the film, they're all amazing people, people that we kind of knew through family, friends, and etc. beforehand. Joe, the guy who plays Ray in the film, the main guy, is kind of a family friend. He does a lot of amateur dramatics. This is his first time on screen, and I think what kind of sort of struck to me about his performance is just how theatrical it is. I think that for me, when I was reading that story and thinking about the way that I wanted the tone to come across on screen, was that initial characterization and that initial sort of scene in the bar should be so sort of, kind of played up and sort of intense and like in your face in a sense, to kind of make the twist at the end feel even more of a drop off than it would be if the whole thing was played sort of naturalistically. So I think his experience as a stage actor, and especially in sort of stage comedies, really comes across well, in the sense that it's a very big performance, it's a very big thing, and that was essentially the main reason I thought he'd be perfect for that role. And then Lee, who played Bobby, is another person that we sort of knew. He's got a long history as an acting drama teacher, and he was actually incredibly supportive from the moment I sent through this idea. He's brilliant, and gives a lot more nuance to the he almost grounds Ray, I'd say, on screen, which is something that he does really well, and the sort of depth in his performance, which is something that maybe you didn't get from Joe in Ray's sense, but that's sort of on purpose, in the sense that we've got one character who is very much immersed in this moment in time and so specific, another character who is got a lot more to deal with, and you can tell that on his face, I think, just in his eyes. And yeah, they were both amazing to work with. We didn't actually have any time to rehearse before the shoot, so we got on set, and as people were setting up, we did a sort of a little mini read through, and I had almost no notes. They were both perfect moment that they sort of got into those characters and interacted with each other for the first time. And a little coincidence, I actually found out on set that Lee taught Joe acting at school, so It was kind of a bit of a full circle moment that we didn't even realise until we were halfway through shooting, so it was a brilliant experience.
There is an aspect to your shoot that I wouldn't wish on any director, and that is the fact that you are working with two English people, creating American accents.
Yeah.
How difficult is that as a director? Because, there must have been some scenes where the accent wasn't quite authentic enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff you can those are sort of issues that you can overcome in the casting process. So especially in Lee's case, he sent through a self-tape, and I'd seen Joe in various productions, and very much had an idea of the sort of accent that I wanted both of them to do. And the actual vibe on set in terms of from shot to shot was incredibly fast. Like we were just we had the setups, and we just kind of left everything rolling. So we would do a take of a couple of lines, and then because of the nature of it being so back and forth, we were able to kind of get everything in various different angles and have it sort of put together in the edit. So there are a lot of instances where we would do a single line and I'll just go for that again. So the actual nature of the film itself and the nature of how I knew that I was going to put things together in the edit, because I also edited it, just kind of meant that we were able to correct things and hone things like with very small notes as we were going on, and sort of because of the whole speed and the streamlining and the amazing team as well, it just meant that everything was able to really come together very quickly, and issues like that were able to just be solved just like that in the same take.
Yeah, I've worked with people in doing accents historically, and it's not always an easy task.
Yeah.
Especially when the accent slips. So yeah, can be potentially quite uncomfortable, especially when you're critiquing their
definitely.
performance. What was your favourite point of the shoot?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, to be honest, I think there were two moments for me. I think the first moment was when we just got in there and we were about to do the first take, and like I said, we hadn't had any time to rehearse. I had spoken to both Lee and Joe on the phone prior to sort of get an idea of everything, and obviously they had learnt the script and were aware of each other. And a lot of the crew I'd spoken to, and we knew sort of a lot of what we were doing. But we did the first take, which we shot the thing in order as well, which is quite rare, obviously. So that first initial take where it pans up, and it's just like that sort of very quick back and forth. I think it took a couple of goes, but then there was a moment where we got it right, and it was like, wow, I know what this is going to be now. Like, you're like, I'm in. And that was just an amazing thing for me. And then we had a sort of longish shoot ahead, trapped in this sort of like bar shed with a haze machine, like constantly pumping out air, and everyone was like struggling to breathe. And it was that was kind of that moment where you're like, I know what we're making, so you can get through all of that stuff. And then lastly, we had one take in the film, which is the first half of the transition to the old people's home. So where Bobby gets up he hears Ray in the bathroom, gets up and opens the door. Me and my DP, we spent the entire shoot worrying about this take. Like, we were like, this is going to be so hard, because we had this gimbal, and the gimbal didn't really work, and it didn't want to balance the camera. So we were like, this is going to be a disaster. And we kind of allocated like a solid hour just to do this one shot of a guy standing up and walking through a door. And we got there and we did it in one take. Like, I was just like, okay, let's just try it. And then we did it, and it was like, oh, okay, now we can move on. Yep. And that was it. We didn't even have to do any more for like security or anything. That was the one we used. It was literally perfect. I was over the moon.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What sort of budget did you have to work with?
Oh, basically zero. It was a student project, so it was just kind of a lot of pulling in favours from people, and dipping a little bit into my own pockets for certain things. But yeah, it was amazing.
Well done for that. Do we have any questions out there? Oh,
yes.
Hang on.
How did you get the rights from the writer to sort of make your movie?
Yeah, so this was a surprisingly simple story. It was about a year and a half ago now, when I was still in college, and we were talking about potentially making this film. I shot out an email to Andy Weir, just cold emailed him, said, listen, I'm a student, I'm from Essex, we're trying to see if we can do this. And I sent this really long email about how much of a fan of his work I was, and sort of, if you want me to pay, I can pay. And then he sent back a 3-word answer, which was, sure, go ahead. And that was it. And that was kind of the start of the film. It was surprisingly simple.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions out there? Oh no. Tumbleweed. What's next?
Well, I'm currently working, I'm in very, very early pre-production for a new short film, which is going to be incredibly different to the real deal in a lot of ways. It's longer, sort of high concept. We're trying to sort of raise a little bit of money to do it and have a little bit of a higher budget. And yeah, I had a meeting with a friend of mine who's going to be the producer last Thursday, so yesterday. And we've got a script, and it's going to be a bit of a longer, sort of more expansive project. But I want to bring back a lot of the crew, a lot of the actors are coming back as well. And it's going to be something very different, but also very exciting. Hopefully filming in around January, February next year, and then coming out in the summer.
Excellent. Well, let's give James a big round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.